Hey, I'm happy to have in the studio a very, very talented man who I've never interviewed before. I can't remember, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Murray Thorne. Murray Thorne is
Hi,
going to be
Cindy.
doing. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me in.
We've talked on the phone, and I've certainly seen you play everywhere. You've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, I guess it has been a while now.
About 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, on Maui.
Yeah.
And then that's like 25 years on Maui, and then really many years before that on the mainland, too, where I cut my teeth on road gigs.
Where in the mainland?
West coast of Canada is where I mostly grew up, and then when I graduated high school there, I just took off on the road with a rock band and kind of never looked back. And in the early days, they would used to send you up north. Any town that begins with Fort Saint and usually has Prince in it, and we would just go like up to these northern towns and sometimes across the prairies, and that's where I cut my teeth playing music. Really,
That's kind of I love Canada and its music scene.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I love what's come out of Canada as far as music, but
A lot of good stuff.
But here you have been doing some very creative stuff. You were kind of doing multimedia before it became more of a thing, right?
I guess, yeah. I've been thinking about that really because it's so popular now. But
It is.
It's like what I'm doing now. You kind of have to rewind it. It goes back to what I did when I did this show in the flesh, where
Yep.
I decided to. I wanted to play the album "The Wall" by Pink Floyd live by myself.
Were you on drugs when you decided to do that?
No,
I mean, like,
it actually just happened from like playing solo gigs in bars, and people would go like, "Play some Floyd," and I would like do something off the wall, and then I'd do another one, and then I just got to thinking, it's like, I wonder if I could do the whole thing. So it became a personal challenge,
I guess.
and then I just committed to it. But I honestly, getting to the multimedia part of it, I figured out technically how I would play it, and I thought it would be boring for people to watch. So I thought I need something to happen while I'm playing it. So basically, I made my own movie to run behind it, using some of Gerald Scarf's original Floyd images, but a lot of just stuff that I just invented myself to have people watch. And it ended up being a theater-type show where people would watch the movie while I was playing the music.
Now you go to any big show, there's always some multimedia elements. Almost everything
You
has.
think of the Sphere in Vegas.
Oh, my God,
I
yeah.
just saw Muse recently, and they blew my mind. And they've got like so many great visuals. I think any big touring act's got a lot of visuals going on.
Has to, yeah.
But I love that stuff. I do. I think
Did
it's
you
great.
have a good video background? Is that what kind of helped? You just learn as you go, huh?
Learn as you go. Like I always liked, it was just a little sort of pet thing at home. I would like to edit pictures and video.
Yeah.
But I really learned when I was building in the flesh. I sat down with Final Cut and just tried to teach myself how to edit video.
I had Final Cut 1. I did.
Wow.
I used to. I know you're laughing, right? 'Cause what are they up to? An 8 or 9? I lost track.
It's like it's way over that
way over
now.
that
It's
now.
where-
I used
I
to-
started with like an early 10 when those are old already.
Oh,
So
gosh. Yeah, I was doing that way back, and I loved it, but I just couldn't keep up with all the technology and changing everything. All
It
the
is.
time. It's just like too much.
it's
going on.
ironic for me because I never would have guessed that I would get into technology as far as mixing with music because I come from a really more rootsy musical background.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of through this, and that I just decided to sort of marry the two together with the visuals and everything. But long story short, it was just after a few runs of doing the In the Flesh show, I thought to myself, why don't I ever do this with my own music? So that's
Yes.
what this show is now.
It's a big leap because, I mean, I like that you're doing the show you're doing June 1st at the Pro Arts, and because Pro Arts is a lovely venue,
It's a great venue.
kind of a black box venue with only
Mm-hmm.
100 people. You probably saw Eric Gilliam's.
You know what?
You didn't see
I
White Hawaiian?
haven't, and I'm sorry to Eric that I haven't yet seen
Yeah,
it.
he
But
took a little break, but
I'm definitely going to see it as soon as he starts doing it again.
because he tied that multimedia theme in, of course,
Yeah.
with I think the help of Brian Cohen put
Yeah,
that
yeah.
together, right? So he did it very well, and he tied in pictures, and then he even had costumes to match the pictures.
Uh-huh.
which is a very cool thing.
And
really,
I
you
love
know.
this too,
Yeah.
bringing the theatrics into it.
Yeah.
And I come from a musical theater background
Oh,
myself too.
okay.
So
Well, that ties
a
in
lot
well.
of this influences all of it. I'm a rock musician,
Yeah.
but I have a theatrical background too. So at a young age, it was kind of impressed upon me that if you're going to be on stage, you need to be entertaining. I guess that's what theater teaches you. It's like it's different than just sitting there and playing a song.
It's
right?
interactive and it's communicative as
Yeah.
well. I mean, and heaven knows, like you talk about the sphere. My God, I mean, I haven't been. I was talking to Bill PA about it last week actually, and what it was like for him to experience that. In the very beginning, he went and saw a backstage whole thing. It was like mind blowing what it can do. It's
Yeah.
the future.
It is the
what's
future,
going to be
yeah.
coming. For you though, to do this with your own music is a leap. You know. And is it a little scary because you've always done music that people have requested, as you mentioned, and some of the
Exactly.
songs that were known?
Yeah, in the beginning, yeah, it was absolutely frightening because I committed to the idea of doing this a year ago. I released an EP last year.
Wow.
And not having this show in mind. I was just it was all about the music. I just wanted to write the best EP I could, and I released it.
5 songs?
6.
6 songs, okay.
And it wasn't until I went and I did a short little tour to support it last summer, and then it was always in the back of my mind. It's like I need to do a better show for this, and it wasn't within my means to put a band together. And I thought I need to do what I did within the flesh with my music. And so a year ago I started building this, and yes, I was absolutely frightened. I didn't know how I was going to sell the idea to people or anything. Now I've been working on it for so long. Now I see it kind of through different goggles. It's like now I just can't wait to do the show and sort of get it out of my system as far as that goes.
But it's a one-night gig. So, I mean...
But hopefully I'm going to do this show
Yeah,
more
because
than
that's
once.
a lot of work
For sure. There's
for a
definitely...
one-night gig.
I didn't put this together to only do it
Yeah.
one time. I'm really hoping I can gain a little traction with this and be able to do it a lot more often.
Why Deconstructed?
Why Deconstructed? So going back again to after I did the runs with the Into Flesh shows and was with the Celtic Tigers playing Mulligans, I was busy musician playing around Maui. And then COVID hit and shut everything down. There was nothing to do, and it gave me an opportunity, very serendipitous, to just go back and start writing. And a little home studio, and I would just write and record, and that led me to be able to record this EP.
Just you.
Deconstruction Zone comes out of it's a euphemism for what we all went through, basically, and when things were shut down by COVID, that everyone got a chance to get off the treadmill, so to speak, and reevaluate their lives. It was like forced downtime for everyone.
No, not. I worked every single day.
Oh, you worked every single day.
Never
Oh,
took
okay,
one day off.
I'm sorry that
On the radio.
that you
Yeah.
didn't enjoy the same laziness that
No,
some of us got
it was
to. but-
every day, but it was interesting driving down the road with no traffic. That was interesting.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I remember walking the streets of just being like
Just
a
like,
ghost
yeah.
town. It was crazy. But that's where it came from, anyways. Like just to be
So you have to-
deconstructed, to pull back, taking a look at yourself and forced change upon you.
Yeah.
And so that ended up sort of becoming the theme of the EP and kind of the theme of the show, the live show too.
So you had to deconstruct to reconstruct.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, which is okay, which is good actually. And it probably was almost as much work putting the video and everything together as it was the music. Video's not easy to edit together.
No, it's not. And I just kind of jumped in and I just started putting together images and footage of what I thought represented the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't question it too much. I just went with my gut and what was sort of like visually pleasing to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not even till like the end of it, kind of like writing a song, I guess, too, is it not until you're done, you take a step back and go like, oh, I didn't even realize what I was writing about until after I heard it back. And same thing with some of the visuals for this. I just threw in certain things, and I was just sort of like spitballing ideas and just throwing stuff to see what would stick in the wall. And then I would look back at the end and go like, oh, I just created a video that's about this certain theme, sometimes without even really realizing it. And
that's one of the wonderful things about working for yourself as a musician. If you were having to do this for someone else, you would not have been able just to do that.
I could never, no, we could never have that free reign of just like full creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now when you think about it, my God, almost every single that's out is released sometimes before the single is out, music is out, you have the video. I mean, it's amazing how now everyone expects you to do a video with your release.
It's fully expected now. People don't listen to the music. They watch it now, and they watch it on their iPhone, and they'll on Instagram. They'll flip by it in a nanosecond, and it's so visual now that it doesn't really make me happy.
I've been around radio long enough, and I got really upset when MTV came on and everything was about that. I said, you're ruining the original concept of people being able to figure out what the music is about, because you're putting out someone's commercial interpretation of it,
right,
and it's going to change the way it really might take off otherwise.
And to me, the music comes first to me. Like it has to be about the music, about the lyric, about the delivery of the music. That if I didn't have the music, I could never do this.
So what are you doing music-wise on this one?
Music-wise, so this is the songs off my latest EP, Deconstruction Zone, and songs off an album I put out a few years ago called Tin Can Telephone. I do tribute a little bit of stuff that I did with the Celtic Tigers, and some of the Floyd stuff is going to be in the show too. But musically, it's guitar-driven rock. But I'm doing it as a one-man show, so a lot of it is kind of unplugged, but I try to deliver it in a way that I pull rock concert elements out of the delivery of it to make it a little bit more than a person just sitting on a stool.
Rock isn't the same as what some people think it is these days. Rock has really changed the definition of rock has really evolved a lot, I think.
Yes.
I mean, in fact, a lot of people I know who are rock musicians now are submitting their music to the Grammys as Americana or folk or other things, It's like, I thought that was rock. No, now it's become Americana.
I know.
Or now
it kind of all is now. I know,
to
really define what is rock anymore. It's pretty wide.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, I don't know. It's interesting, But again, the Celtic Tigers, expands that whole the field of what you were doing, because that was, that Celtic Tigers will not be considered rock.
No, but I went into it with my rock glasses on, though, because that's how I approached it. But the Celtic music on its own, I mean, I was always drawn to it because a good Celtic song has all the right elements. It has
I absolutely agree.
Great lyrics, which to me the lyric has to come first, and always great melodies. A lot of these just.
Oh, look at what Van Morrison did, really.
Yeah. And
I mean,
awesome.
He was able to expand it all to what he wanted to do, and he then still was able to have that genre.
Yeah. And Shane MacGowan with the Pogues. So just like, to me, he's one of the great poets. He's up there with Dylan as far as musical poetry goes.
And so it's an interesting depth of what you can do, And do you do it all in one style guitar? Do you do a couple of different? Do you do some acoustic? Do you do some rock?
Acoustic, some electric. I'm even playing some mandolin on this, and I'm playing piano again for the first time in a long time. So I've got a few things going on depending on the song and the mood for that particular piece.
I was just reading about Elton John's statements about his early days, and actually I was reading Bernie Taupin's book about when Elton John I played at the Troubadour way back when. Everyone was just playing guitar. No one sat up there and did piano, And everyone was like, "What is this? Where's the rock piano? You can't have a guitar. Where's the guitar?" But you know what? he was able to do it
He
because
he made the piano rock.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah,
He really made the
he
piano
made
rock.
the piano rock. I like that. So you're really putting yourself. Now this is how long a show. It starts. It's going to be not this week, next Saturday, June 1st. How long is the show going to be?
The show, the runtime of the music is 90 minutes, and I think
Oh,
we
it's a
just
lot.
decided we are going to do a little very short intermission in.
That's
in the
90
middle.
minutes is a lot of music
Yes.
for a one-man show.
Yes.
I mean, typically that's about maybe 60 minutes. You know, that you're doing the length of a full-length movie.
Doing the length of a full-length movie or a full-length rock concert,
Yeah.
basically. And so I wasn't going to have an intermission at first, but I just decided I think it might be a good idea because it's so much sensory overload.
Yeah.
I think people would appreciate getting a little break halfway through. So I decided to do an intermission.
Do you have a favorite kind of theme for? I mean, it's always interesting when you do an album because you're supposed to put one of your best pieces right at the first one, the first track, right? And that's always hard. You know, sometimes it's very, very clear that, this is definitely, maybe it's the one you spent the most money on or the most time on.
Right.
Did you have a hard time deciding what the theme? It's kind of supposed to set the theme with the first song, but it doesn't always do that. So what was that theme that you wanted to deconstruct?
Gosh, good question. But to me, it just seemed obvious. Like the theme is deconstruction, so that to me just sort of answered how I'm going to do my own without giving away what I'm going to start or end with. It made it pretty obvious to me, though. It's just looking at my catalog of stuff and trying to sort of tell a little musical visual story. I think I kind of wrapped it in those bookends, so to speak, if that makes sense.
How do you go about doing this these days and figure out what you're going to charge for a ticket? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to try to figure out.
I ask people because this is not. I mean, I've co-produced a lot of shows like this before, like with Scott Johnson, who's helping me on this
Oh, good.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you to Scott and Aloha Growers. But going back to like when we were doing the early September shows and trying to figure out how do we do this.
Yeah, that was a handful.
But left on my own, I learned a lot about this whole aspect, but I trust people like him. I call other people that's really more their thing, just deciding ticket prices. Like, so I don't cook that up on my own.
Well, that's smart. That's smart because it's hard to figure out. The thing is that you do have, since you've done it so long, your name is known. A lot of people have already seen you. You already have a reputation for what you're doing. So there's a bit of a buzz that would happen just with that. I mean, you have enough friends that you know that they're going to come, right?
I hope so. I hope it's actually been a while since I've been out doing a show like this. So
When was
it's
the
like
last time you did?
2017 for a kind of like a large production show like this.
Wow.
Yeah,
Was it really?
To me, like since 2019, since COVID, I just feel like everything went on fast forward.
Yeah.
So, and here we are already. I mean, the last couple of years to me was just all, I was just so deep writing and then recording.
Yeah.
And then building this show. So like the time's just flying, and I step back and realize, oh my gosh, it's been this long since I've actually gone out.
Writing and actually producing video is a very introspective process.
Yes.
And it's a lot of it's biographical, of course, So you get that combination of wanting to express something and get it out, but you're also telling your story,
Right.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, and I mean, I have different approaches as far as that goes. As far as like lyrics go, sometimes it is a very personal account, and then other times I'm writing fiction, and then other times it's a marriage of the two.
Yeah.
And I don't really consciously know myself how much of my own truth it winds up there in the end, because it's influenced by so many things. But I always really liked songwriting where the listener can interpret
Yeah.
And you might have many different interpretations of,
Yeah.
of like what the real core meaning of the song is. I like good lyric writing that is understandable, that takes you somewhere.
Yeah. There's a real art to it.
Yes.
There really is. There's an amazing art to being a good lyricist. I mean, I look at some of the good lyrics that were written, like by Paul Simon, and they're ones I want to go back and actually think about the words. Sometimes going, yeah, I can remember that and what that means.
I know.
But I mean,
know.
a good lyricist, I mean, Bob Dylan, you still try to figure out what's he saying. I mean, I think that he actually wrote trying to confuse people as to what it was about sometimes.
Sometimes, but then other times, like he just like throw out a line that I would just listen to that
Yes.
one line and go like, that's pure genius.
Yeah.
And like, even he admitted like that a lot of times he didn't even know what he was doing. Just like it just came out of him like he was just a conduit from
Yeah.
the cosmos, and stuff
Yeah.
was just pouring out of him.
Yeah.
And on my own level, I can understand that sometimes, because sometimes stuff just literally falls out of your brain and you look at it and go like, gosh, where'd that come from?
I know, and that's the wonderful thing about writing, and actually creating, and it's such a beautiful process. But it's wonderful that you were able to decide to take this and make this happen and put it out there. I don't think anyone realizes, number one, how hard it is to actually produce an EP or an album, or how hard it is to do a video, and how difficult it is to actually do a show. Like, you're going to be running over to see Lynn and get the set up and everything worked out. It's a massive amount of work.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
It's a crazy amount of work. This is true, and I especially going into the last couple of weeks where I'm warning my family, Dad's going to be a little bit of a basket case now. And it's like, I'm sorry now for how I'm going to behave over the next 2 weeks before the show happens. But it's a funny show business thing. It's an art world thing where we like to torture ourselves to do things like this. It's a personal challenge that you rise to, but it's such a huge part of my life to have these challenges and to see if you can meet them.
It is. It's really part of the process, and it's really an important part of the process. And you're starting it at 7:30.
Yes, shows at 7:30.
But you can probably open the doors at 7. Probably open the doors a little early.
I believe so. I
Yeah.
would have to check about that,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the doors will open at least 7 or earlier.
And it is the Maui Pro Arts. ProArtsMaui.org is the site.
Yes, it is.
And it's you can get your tickets in advance there. And there's a nice little write-up about it, and a little on you as well. And if people haven't checked out your other stuff, they can see you have a website, but you also have videos on YouTube of some of your performances.
Yeah.
And it's inspired stuff, and it's really, I think it's so important that we honor. There's so many great musicians here in Maui, and my gosh, it
There
just
really
blows my mind. And it's great to see everyone
Yeah.
finding a way and a place to do it here.
Yes.
It's a huge, huge creative field, force
There's
field we're putting
so
out.
much creativity going on here that it's like I feel really honored to be in that mix. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That certain people that I really admire are so close by, and you can see them how they work, and it's all going on around you. It's wonderful.
And if people aren't aware of it out there, you don't get into music here in Maui to make money.
No.
You do not get
No.
it.
I don't know if you play music anywhere to make money unless you're really lucky.
Yeah. So this is, like, it's a labor of love.
Yes.
And it's an important thing to support as well. And it blows my mind sometimes how wonderful and blessed we are to be able to go to places like Pro Arts and to other venues we have where you can do this kind of thing.
Yes, and I just right now, just for that, I would love to shout out Lynn and Pro Arts Theater, because I think it's just so great to have these kinds of venues.
Yeah.
And especially for what I've been doing, which is like it's a theater style rock concert, right? Like one-man show. So these venues are just perfect for that, where it's like a small little black box that you sit in and you can see, and it sounds good, and yeah, love that.
Well, I thank you for coming in. You can get tickets at proartsmaui.org. It's Saturday after next, June 1st,
Yes,
7:30,
it is.
and it's going to be quite a treat. And I thank you for taking the time to come in, Murray.
And I thank you so much for having me here, Cindy. Thank you.
Aloha.